In Fallout 4, there's an extensive amount of drugs that you can take in order to get an edge on combat or talking scenarios, but usually it comes with a cost of addiction. Addiction can take away multiple special traits, leaving you naked and afraid until you satisfy it again with another drug. This raises the question, can I beat Fallout 4 addicted to every chem? Now, like always, the perfect run needs the perfect character in order for it to be good, and I had to think pretty hard about it. I decided a mix between a 20-year-old man doing graveyard shifts and a crack dealer on the streets of New York City trying to sell children candy. Now, no one knows what's in that candy, but it could be bad, and I think I did a perfect job portraying that. I first started off by making a good selection of perks, but I forgot about the extreme amount of debuffs that this actually gives you, so most of these perks were pretty irrelevant throughout the entire game. And for my name, I decided to name myself after the person who gave me the inspiration for the challenge, and also what you'll be whenever you take this many drugs. And as my normal routine, I started geeking out inside of my drug room, hearing my baby cry, but leaving it for my wife to deal with it, until I blacked out. I woke up in a pod, not knowing at all what happened, but my son wasn't here, and my wife was shot. But there was 2 positives and 1 negative. 1, my wife was dead, more drugs for me, she can't stop me. I had a wedding ring to sell, and then my son was gone, which was the negative. He needs to grow up just like me. And of course, to start the run, I couldn't hit anything, because I do not want to get any experience or else I'll kill the run. Now, once I had left the vault, it was now time for me to get all of the drugs and addictions, which can only be done by console commands, because there's no way you can run around getting every single addiction without gaining a level. So now that I had every single drug in the game, it was time for me to actually start downing them all, because I didn't really want to keep any of them other than just use them all, except for Jet, because that needs to be done one at a time. And then I started taking every single Jet in the game to get addicted to that. Here's what it looks like to have every single drug activated and have all of the buffs. And then this is what it looks like when I have all the debuffs. It's not that good. So the first thing I did in Sanctuary was go look into my home to find out if someone had touched my chems, and they had. This means war in the Commonwealth. So I started making my way down to Concord to see if I can find out whoever did this, or at least release my anger. And I did. I bought a machete from Trashcan Carla and started hacking and whacking at these people, trying to invade this guy's home. And of course, I died at first, but then when I came back a second time, I murdered them in cold blood, and then killed the people they were attacking, because I didn't like the way they were looking at me. And after being out of breath at least 100 times, I finally made my way to the Cambridge police station and helped Paladin Dance kill the ghouls. I asked Paladin Dance to become my chaperone so he can take me to ArcJet so we can find the deep range transmitter. And I did my part for being the cameraman for Paladin Dance. He was doing his job just fine, until I absolutely ass-blasted him with the ArcJet engine. But nonetheless, I grabbed the deep range transmitter and then left to go fight a Yaoguai with just a machete. And it went the way exactly how you think it would, by me dying and getting mauled twice. I ended up just pulling out my evil gun, shooting him into a fine dust. And with this victory, I tried to take on the entirety of Grey Garden, but it went exactly the way that you think it would again. I died. And with this being the final straw, I decided to make my way down to find a weapon that would be super helpful and make it a fun playthrough. But like every single red giant arrows in the sky, it pointed me straight to the USS Constitution for the broadsider. But I first needed to make my way there, and on my way, I destroyed an entire cultist encampment using a missile launcher and Mirelurks as my advantage. And with this fun fact, I finally made my way to the USS Constitution, and almost getting stopped and beat ruthlessly by this police robot. I made it out by a whim and met the captain of the ship, whose name is Ironsides, and he's going to be the one that gives me a cannon. But then I had to repel an attack by the scavengers, and I used these cannons twice to absolutely obliterate them. And instead of having fun, they made me go down and go install new cables and new power sockets into almost every single nook and cranny around the ship. And when I thought the repairs were done, I was then tasked with finding the guidance chip which had been stolen by the scavengers. And I didn't feel like talking, so I decided to blow all of their brains out and then find it myself. And they hid it inside of a file cabinet, thinking I'd be too scared I'd find a job application. I installed the thingy, was tasked with another thingy and killed more bugs, and then grabbed the thingy, and then placed that thingy in. And you guessed it, I went out and grabbed another thing, and then made my way back, defended against an attack, killed people that were boarding the ship, and then finally it was done. I finally received my beautiful gift that was the broadsider. Now I can shoot giant cannonballs at little people and kill them and crush them. Pretty sick, right? I activated the ship's thrusters, jumped on the ship, and then tried to survive and see how the ride went. And it went the way any traveling fair would go. It crashed and burned and died. so I decided just to watch it from a distance because it's still pretty cool that way. And I tried to test out the damage of the weapon, but Swan is just a tough motherfucker. He decided, what a better way than to murder this guy with rocks over and over again. And then I left him alone, making my way down the Parkway Street station to go find Nick Valentine. I then absolutely murdered every single triggerman using the shotgun like I was Doom Guy. I felt pretty cool. And then I grabbed a bat, smashing these two guys' skulls in, and stupidly tried to use VATS, thinking it might work, but it missed terribly. The second time worked though. I grabbed Nick, and then we made our way out to find Skinny Malone. I shot him with a cannon, and then dropped a mine on the floor, which absolutely murdered everybody. I left the subway, someone stole the keys out of the mayor's pockets, died, snooped through Kellogg's house. Instead of using dog meat, I fast traveled straight to Fort Hagen because I already had the marker. And all the synths crumpled like little papers after they found out that I can quit whenever I want. I just don't want to. Now it's time for me to fight Kellogg. And he was no threat to me other than the fact that he had buddies. His synth friends were dangerous. He, on the other hand, was super easy to kill. The synths, no. I then robbed him of every single body part that he had so I could sell in the black market. I then felt like Superman after I saved Kyle from being shot with my mighty pecs. With the feeling of pride, I made my way down to Good Neighbor and then shot this man dead because he was trying to mug me. This really goes to show, do not cross a crackhead when he's trying to sell you a lollipop. I went to Dr. Amari and she lobotomized Nick, and then I got into a coma after relapsing, seeing weird dream shit. After that weird trip, I left to go to the glowing sea, getting chased by sentry bots, and also watching the Brotherhood of Steel get absolutely nuked. I decided to throw the hazmat idea out of the window, going in bare naked, just to add a little bit more edge to the challenge. But then rad scorpions came, so I ran as fast as I could, until I started getting attacked by stingwings. They suck. I hate these little zigzag bugs. I then did escape, and then talked to my identical twin who was hiding in this cave. He told me to go kill a courser, and I listened to him right away. I fast traveled to the CIT ruins, grabbed the radio frequency, made it to Green Tech Genetics. I went inside, and then I started to kill everybody that was there. I finally made it to the courser, dropping a cannonball right in his noggin. It didn't kill him though, and then he killed me. So I changed up my plan a little bit. I developed a strategy where if you close the door, he wouldn't go invisible again. So that made him pretty easy to kill. I grabbed the platinum chip and then made my way to go deliver to Virgil. I killed all the hostages so there would be no witnesses. Pretty cool, right? I went back to Dr. Amari, but she had no clue what she was talking about, so I made my way to find the railroad. One of those evil puppies came along and tried to eat me, but I ate it instead by using a bat. I got really low, so I started slurping down on that water, and then finally made it to the Old North Church. I solved this puzzle like a 2-year-old, trying to put the triangle in the circle hole. Does not work. I never said I was going to do it peacefully. I murdered Desmodona and the entirety of Railroad by using a fat man. I then killed everybody else with my broadsider, making quick work of all of them. I then decoded the Courser chip by myself. I went back to Virgil, gave him the Courser chip, and then he decoded it, giving me some plans. But before I could use them, I needed to go back to the Cambridge police station to finish the Brotherhood starting missions. I went inside and grabbed both Halen and Reese's missions. And then when doing Reese's mission, I realized my bat was doing less and less damage. So I needed a replacement. But in order to get my replacement, I need to go to Jamaican Plains and clear out all the ghouls. And it sounds easy on paper, but the ghouls suck. There is so many. Why is there so many ghouls here? What is the point? But after a lot of grenades, I finally killed the last ghoul, grabbing the keys for the archives and making my way to the town hall. I found myself at a wall of laser trip mines, and I was super dedicated, until one of them just triggered, and it got bad, and I ran, and then I tried finding another way, and then I got in, and grabbed the bat. With this upgrade, I can now launch enemies into the air at random times. I went back to the Cambridge police station, turning in all the quests that I had done, and then it was now time for us to go to the Pridwin. I listened to Elder Maxon's speech, met the rest of the crew, and then went on an oddly placed vertibird to go to Fort Strong to wipe out the super mutant. The minigun on board made quick work of the behemoth and then also the rest of the super mutants I put down with my bat. And then I absolutely destroyed all the rest of the super mutants that were inside with a few well-placed rocket launcher shots. I reported back to Elder Maxon's haircut, and then he gave me the green light to build the teleporter. Luckily and ironically, I was a super big hoarder throughout the entire game, so I had so much junk, I didn't really need to search anywhere for any parts. Once it was built, I stood on the pad and teleported into the Institute, placing down the network scanner to scan all the contents of the Institute. And then I went down this really long elevator once again. I made it into this room, looking at this kid who didn't look nothing like me. And then this guy came through, and I knew exactly who he was. It was my son. Look at that nose. My son told me to go meet all of the division leaders, and I did just that. And then he told me to go to Libertaria to meet up with a Courser in order to get back a runaway synth. This was a great chance to use my bat and see how it acted, and it was great. And then I got stuck in a loop with a guy trying to shoot me with a fat man every single time I tried to initiate combat with someone else. It was terrible. But I eventually got past the nuking, killing the last raider that I needed to kill, grabbed this cool looking shotgun, and then made it out to the platform with the synth leader. And I told him the recall code, which shut him down immediately. I went back to Father and he told me I have to kill more railroad, and I was super down for it. I already did it once and I'll do it again. The battle was really easy. I killed most of them with my pipe rifle, and then some with my rockets. Once I had made my way into the room with all the runaway synths, I gave them all the recall codes so they can go back to the Institute where they belong. When I went back to the Institute, I found out that my son was dying, which kinda sucks. I didn't get the chance to smoke meth and play video games with him. That sucks. The only way I could empty my feelings out was by knocking this Brotherhood Knight clean off of mass fusion, which made me feel a little bit better. But of course, what I had to do was get the beryllium agitator, and I had a really close call, almost dying from the rads once I had grabbed it. It was crazy. There was a few robot resistance, but I put them down quickly with a fat man, a bat, and another fat man. Since Father loves to milk me dry before he dies, I had to go do another mission and try to convince someone to come back. But as we all know now, my charisma is in the negatives. This was never gonna work. I gave up and went back to do my speech, making sure I was as evil as possible. I then had to put together this radio station. And I'm gonna be honest, I stink at matching things, so I felt like a toddler. And I took out all my anger on Travis, because I think he did this to me. For some reason, everybody was angry at me. I ended up just sneaking off and then placing the beryllium agitator inside of the reactor core, and then I did my first meeting as director of the Institute. And now it was time to burn down that Pridwin. And like normally, all of my hopes and dreams are crushed by Big 10 men coming at me. I gave Ingram the most devious slap in the back, and then I gave the rest to everybody else who crossed my path. I went ahead and destroyed the generators, and then went back up to the platform with Liberty Prime, placing down all of my synth relays, so I could have an entire army protecting me. I hit an absolutely devious shot with a cannonball, and then started using everything I had to start killing things, until Elder Maxon showed up, which I took the ultimate risk using a fat man with bats, even with all of my debuffs. And you know what? I hit him dead on, first try. Yeah, woo! Liberty Prime shot down his own airship, creating the final blow that destroyed the Brotherhood of Steel. And then I was teleported away, watching the explosion from afar. It was pretty sick. With the flash of light, you can beat Fallout 4, addicted to every single drug in the game. I hope you guys enjoyed. And if you did, like the video, leave a comment, and yeah, subscribe. Anyways, bye. I saved Preston Garvey at the end.